My name is Michelle, and I grew up with my twin sister Camilla in what looked like a picture-perfect family from the outside. My father was a handsome brunette with strong features, and my mother was a blonde former model who never let anyone forget it. But despite their good looks, Camilla and I were born looking nothing like either of them. We took after our paternal grandfather instead: black hair, large cheekbones, a prominent nose, and a heavy chin. Nothing like the delicate features my mother prized so much in herself. "Such a shame," my mother would say, looking at us with barely disguised disappointment. "You girls could have been so pretty if you'd taken after me." These comments became the soundtrack of our childhood. My sister Camilla would lock herself in the bathroom and cry for hours whenever Mom made these remarks. "Why did we have to be the ugly ones?" she'd sob through the door when I'd check on her. I remember standing in front of the mirror one day after my mother had made a particularly cutting remark about my unfortunate nose. I stared at my reflection for a long time. "I'm not that scary looking," I said to myself. "I look like plenty of normal people." My teenage years proved me right. I made friends easily, boys and girls who couldn't care less about what I looked like. Our friend group was diverse. Jake had vitiligo that created white patches across his brown skin, Emma was overweight and couldn't care less, and Tim had acne that no treatment seemed to help. We all got along fine, sharing music, going to movies, and just hanging out like normal teens. "You know what's cool about our group?" Jake said to me once. "Nobody's trying to be something they're not." Camilla had a very different experience. While I accepted my appearance, she became increasingly obsessed with changing hers. She was determined to break into the popular crowd, the conventionally attractive kids who ruled the school. But they wanted nothing to do with her, and it made her furious. "I just need to fix my face," she'd say, tearing pictures out of magazines. "Then they'll see." Her room was plastered with images of her idol, a famous singer whose face was on every billboard in town. The singer had a small nose, big eyes, and plump lips, everything Camilla wanted and I supposedly lacked. "I'm going to look just like her someday," Camilla would declare. "Just wait and see." When we graduated high school at 18, our paths diverged dramatically. I chose to attend college with the money our parents had saved for our education. Camilla had other plans. "I'm not going to college," she announced at our graduation dinner. My parents looked stunned. "What are you talking about?" Dad asked. "I want to use my college fund for plastic surgery," she said, determination hardening her voice. "I want a new nose first." "Absolutely not," my father said immediately. But my mother got a strange look in her eyes. "Let's discuss this," she said, putting her hand on Dad's arm. While I spent the next 4 years earning my business degree, Camilla was in and out of plastic surgeons' offices. Her first surgery reduced the size of her nose. 6 months later, she had her cheekbones shaved down. By the time I graduated with honors, my twin was barely recognizable. I threw myself into building my career at a large marketing firm, climbing the ladder steadily while Camilla continued her transformation. Over 9 years, she underwent 10 different procedures: smaller nose, reduced cheekbones, enlarged eyes, plumped lips, even a changed hairline. She grew out her hair and dyed it blonde to match our mother. "Isn't she just stunning?" my mother would gush whenever I visited. "A real beauty now." Dad had initially objected to the surgeries, but after the first few, he gave up fighting. By the 5th procedure, he was actually encouraging her, helping her research the best surgeons. "Your sister knows what she wants and goes after it," he said to me once, as if her obsession with changing her face was some kind of admirable determination. Meanwhile, I was excelling at work. Last year, at 26, I was promoted to senior marketing director, with my own office and team. I dated occasionally, but was mostly focused on my career, which was thriving. Family visits became increasingly uncomfortable. My mother would fawn over Camilla, calling her my beautiful doll while barely acknowledging me except to occasionally glance at my face with thinly veiled disgust. "Michelle, have you ever thought about at least getting your nose done?" she asked during one holiday dinner. "Your sister's surgeon does amazing work." I'm happy with my face, Mom, I replied. Dad, who once defended me from Mom's criticism, now joined in. Camilla looks so polished now, he said, looking between us with a smile for her and a frown for me, professional. It could help your career, Michelle. My career is doing just fine, I said, trying to keep my voice even. Camilla would smirk during these conversations. Not everyone can handle the pain of improvement, Dad, she'd say, looking directly at me. Some people just settle. After her dramatic transformation, Camilla began calling me names I hadn't heard since middle school bullies tried, and failed, to make me feel bad about myself. Here comes the horror show, she'd announce when I arrived for family gatherings. Scary movie night at the parents' house. I discovered she'd thrown away all our childhood photos, every trace of her original face erased. When I moved to my own apartment, I managed to salvage just a few pictures, one from our 6th birthday and another from prom night, the last time we truly looked like twins. With her new face, Camilla started modeling for online clothing stores. She lived with our parents rent-free, spending her modest earnings on makeup and clothes for her photo shoots. Did you see my new campaign? She'd ask, shoving her phone in my face whenever I visited. 50,000 likes already. Her Instagram was nothing but carefully staged photos, each with dozens of filters applied. Comments praised her beauty, completely unaware of the surgeries that had created it. I maintained my distance, but tried to stay civil. I had my own life, my own friends, and no desire to engage in her comparisons. Then came the dinner that changed everything. I have an announcement, Camilla said, clinking her glass at our parents' table. I'm getting married. My parents erupted in cheers while I sat there stunned. His name is Daniel, she continued. He's a financial advisor from a very good family. Camilla looked at me with a smirk, then turned to our parents. See? This is why I'm getting married and she's still single. With my face, I can make any man fall in love with me. Some people just don't have that power. I took a deep breath, refusing to take the bait. Congratulations, Camilla, I hope you'll be very happy together. 2 days after Camilla announced her engagement, I heard aggressive knocking on my apartment door. I opened it to find my sister and mother standing there with matching determined expressions. We need to talk about the wedding, my mother said, brushing past me into my living room without waiting for an invitation. Camilla followed, settling herself on my couch and looking around my apartment with obvious disdain. Not bad for someone on your salary, she remarked. What about the wedding? I asked, crossing my arms. My mother smiled that tight smile she used when she was about to ask for something. Your sister's wedding needs to be perfect. It's her big chance to really make something of herself. Make something of herself? I repeated. She's already a model. Camilla rolled her eyes. Please, those gigs barely pay. But Daniel comes from money, real money. So what does that have to do with me? I asked, though I already knew where this was heading. We need help with the expenses, my mother said bluntly. Your father and I have already spent so much on Camilla's improvements. You mean her 10 plastic surgeries, I clarified. Investments, Camilla corrected. And they paid off. Look at who I'm marrying. So you want me to pay for your wedding, I said. My mother nodded. You should help your sister. This could be her only chance. I shook my head, I'll think about it. That wasn't good enough for Camilla. She showed up at my apartment every day for the next week, sometimes sitting in the hallway outside my door until I got home from work. I'm not leaving until you agree, she'd say. I'll sleep right here if I have to. After 5 days of harassment, I finally gave in. Fine, I'll help with the wedding. How much do you need? $80,000 should cover my half, Camilla said casually, as if she hadn't just asked for a massive chunk of my savings. I nearly choked. $80,000? Are you insane? Daniel's paying the other half, she said defensively. His parents are contributing too. I knew I'd regret it, but I agreed. However, I wasn't stupid enough to hand over cash to Camilla. I'll pay the vendors directly, I told her. Send me their information. She pouted but agreed, and over the next few days, I made arrangements with the venue, caterer, photographer, florist, and DJ. Every time I signed a contract or made a deposit, I felt slightly sick, but I told myself this would finally get my family off my back. When do I get to meet Daniel? I asked Camilla one day while we were reviewing flower arrangements. She tensed up. He's really busy right now. Investment banking, you know. You'll meet him at the wedding. I found that odd, but didn't push it. I figured she was embarrassed to introduce her horror show sister to her perfect fiancé. 2 months before the wedding, I tried calling Camilla to discuss some final details. When she didn't answer after several attempts, I decided to drop by our parents' house, where she was still living. It was around 7 in the evening when I used my old key to let myself in. The moment I stepped inside, I knew something was off. The dining room was lit up with candles, and I could hear the clink of glasses and the murmur of conversation. I walked toward the sound and froze in the doorway of our formal dining room. There sat my parents, Camilla, a handsome man I assumed was Daniel, and an older couple who must have been his parents. They were all dressed up, laughing and toasting with champagne. An engagement party. One I hadn't been invited to. The room fell silent as they noticed me standing there. My father's glass stopped halfway to his mouth. My mother's smile froze and then faded. Daniel and his parents looked confused. Camilla was the first to recover. She jumped up from her chair and rushed over to me. "Consuela," she exclaimed loudly, "you finally made it. The kitchen is a mess, and these dishes won't wash themselves." She grabbed my arm and started pushing me toward the kitchen. I was too shocked to resist. "What are you doing?" I hissed when we were in the kitchen. "Just play along," she whispered harshly. "These people are important, don't ruin this for me." She shoved me further into the kitchen and hurried back to the dining room. In a daze, I stood by the sink, trying to process what was happening. Then I heard Camilla's voice, deliberately louder than necessary, carrying from the dining room. "Sorry about that. Consuela is this Mexican immigrant we hired to help around the house. Poor thing barely speaks English, but she's a hard worker. I pay her double the going rate because, you know, I believe in helping those less fortunate." My blood ran cold. I crept closer to the door to hear better. "That's so generous of you, Camilla," a woman's voice, presumably Daniel's mother, said warmly. "Not many young people think about the less fortunate." "We raised her right," my mother chimed in proudly. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My own family was pretending I was their maid? I stood frozen, unable to process the betrayal. My first instinct was to leave quietly and deal with this later, away from strangers. I tried to slip through the dining room toward the front door, keeping my head down. "Consuela," Camilla called out sharply as I passed. "The dishes need washing now, not tomorrow. Don't just wander around the house." Something in me snapped. I marched over to the table and slammed my fist down so hard the dishes rattled and everyone jumped. "My name is not Consuela," I said, my voice steady despite the rage coursing through me. "I'm Michelle, Camilla's twin sister." I turned to Daniel, whose handsome face was slack with shock. "Take a good look at me. This is what your fiancé really looks like." "We're used to," before 10 plastic surgeries completely changed her face. The silence was absolute. Daniel's mother's hand was pressed to her chest. His father's mouth hung open. My parents looked like they wanted to disappear. I turned to Camilla, whose face had gone white beneath her perfect makeup. "Clean up your own mess for once in your life," I spat. Then I walked out, shaking with fury all the way home. The moment I got into my apartment, my phone exploded with calls and texts. My mother, "How could you embarrass us like that?" My father, "You've gone too far this time." And Camilla, a string of expletives I won't repeat. I ignored them all until Camilla called for the 20th time. I picked up, cutting off her immediate tirade with a question. "Were you ever going to invite me to your wedding?" There was a pause. Then, why would I invite a freak like you to the most important day of my life? You'd ruin all the photos. That's all I needed to know, I said, and hung up. Within the hour, I had called the venue, caterer, photographer, florist, and DJ, canceling everything. The vendors were understanding. These things happen, they said, and refunded my deposits minus small cancellation fees. I turned off my phone, poured myself a large glass of wine, and toasted to the $75,000 I just saved. I woke up the next morning to the sound of someone pounding on my apartment door. I checked the peephole to find my sister, mother, and father standing in the hallway. Their faces were contorted with anger. "Open this door right now, Michelle," my mother shouted. Against my better judgment, I let them in. They stormed into my living room like a hurricane. "What the hell did you do?" Camilla screamed, getting right in my face. The venue called to confirm the cancellation. The caterer too. "Everything's gone." "Good," I said, crossing my arms. "You weren't going to invite me anyway, so why should I pay for it?" "You selfish, ugly bastard," Camilla spat. "You're just jealous, because I'm beautiful now and you're still a troll." My father stepped forward. "Michelle, this is unacceptable behavior. You need to call those vendors back immediately and fix this." I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw a stranger. This man who once read me bedtime stories now couldn't even look at me without wincing. "No," I said simply. "What do you mean, no?" my mother demanded. "I mean no, I'm not calling anyone, I'm not paying for anything. The money is back in my account where it belongs." "You're ruining Camilla's life, because you're jealous," my mother said, her voice dripping with disgust. "You've always been jealous of her." I laughed, genuinely laughed. "Jealous? Of what? Her insecurity? Her shallow relationships? Her face that doesn't even look like her anymore?" "At least my face is beautiful," Camilla hissed. "Unlike yours." "Get out," I said, suddenly tired of all of them. "Get out of my apartment, now." "You'll regret this," my mother warned as I herded them toward the door. "You're going to end up alone with that face." "Better alone than surrounded by people like you," I replied, closing the door on them. I thought that would be the end of it, but Camilla wasn't done with me yet. That night, she started posting on social media long, detailed rants about how her jealous sister had ruined her wedding out of spite. How I'd always been envious of her beauty and success. How I'd tried to sabotage her happiness. Her followers ate it up, sending messages of support and outrage on her behalf. Two could play that game. I rarely used social media, but I had accounts. I wrote a simple post. "Interesting how my twin sister claims I'm jealous of her natural beauty. For those curious about what natural looks like, here's us at our high school graduation before her 10 plastic surgeries." I attached one of the few photos I'd saved, Camilla and me at 18, looking identical with our large features and black hair. The response was immediate. Camilla's friends and followers were shocked. Comments poured in. "Wait, you're twins? I had no idea she had a sister. Is that really what she used to look like?" Some of Camilla's closest friends seemed genuinely hurt that she'd never mentioned having a twin. Others were surprised to learn about the extent of her surgeries, which she'd always minimized as just a little work. Camilla tried to have the post removed, claiming I'd posted it without her permission, but the damage was done. Screenshots circulated. People talked. Her carefully constructed image began to crack. The next day, I was at work trying to focus on a presentation when my assistant told me someone was waiting to see me. I was surprised to find Daniel, Camilla's fiancé, standing awkwardly in my office doorway. "Can we talk?" he asked. I gestured for Daniel to sit down. He was handsome in that conventional way, tall, with perfect teeth and carefully styled hair. Exactly the type I'd expect Camilla to catch. "What can I do for you?" I asked, keeping my tone professional. He fidgeted with his watch. "I wanted to hear your side of things. After what happened at dinner, and then the wedding being cancelled. I need to understand what's going on. I studied him for a moment. Did Camilla send you here? No, he said quickly. She doesn't know I'm here. She'd be furious if she found out. That, at least, seemed genuine. What do you want to know? I asked. Everything, he said. Starting with why your family pretended you were the maid. I sighed and gave him the abbreviated version: our childhood with our looks-obsessed mother, Camilla's fixation on changing her appearance, the surgeries, the growing divide between us, and finally, the wedding fiasco. She really had 10 surgeries? He asked, looking stunned. At least, I confirmed. She started at 18 instead of going to college. Our parents spent their retirement fund on her new face. Daniel ran a hand through his hair. She told me she'd had minor work done. Just a nose job in college. I laughed without humor. Did you ever see photos of her from before? No, he admitted. She said they were all lost in a house fire years ago. There was no fire, I said. She threw them all away. She doesn't want anyone to know what she really looks like. Daniel was quiet for a long moment. You look fine, you know, he said finally. Normal, better than normal, natural. The more I look at you, the more I can see what Camilla might have looked like without all the work. Thanks, I guess, I said, surprised by the compliment. I've been having doubts, he admitted, even before that dinner. Something always felt off with Camilla, like she was playing a role. After seeing how she treated you, how your whole family lied so easily. I don't think I can marry her. That's between you and her, I said carefully. I didn't tell you this to badmouth your fiancé. No, you didn't, he agreed. You're nothing like what she described. And what did she describe? A bitter, jealous woman who's been trying to sabotage her since childhood. Someone so eaten up with envy that she can't stand to see others happy. I shook my head. That sounds more like her projection than anything to do with me. Daniel stood up. Thank you for being honest with me. I have some difficult conversations ahead. Good luck, I said, meaning it. 2 days later, the news broke on Camilla's social media: the wedding was off. Daniel had called things off, citing irreconcilable differences. Camilla, of course, blamed me. That's when the real nightmare began. Camilla seemed to make it her full-time job to torment me. She'd wait outside my apartment building in the mornings. She'd follow me to work. My phone was bombarded with messages from her and from fake accounts she created. You ruined my life, she texted at 3 a.m., I'll ruin yours. She even called my boss directly, demanding that he fire me for unethical behavior and emotional damage to a family member. She showed up at client meetings, creating scenes that left me embarrassed and struggling to maintain my professional reputation. One evening, I came home to find her sitting in my hallway, mascara streaked down her face. Daniel is dating someone else already, she said, her voice hollow. Some plain-looking accountant from his office. Nothing special about her at all. I'm sorry, I said, and meant it. Despite everything, seeing her in pain still hurt me. No, you're not, she snapped, the vulnerability vanishing. You planned this, you wanted me to lose everything. That's not true, Camilla. I just wanted to be treated with basic respect. You'll pay for this, she said, getting up. I'm not done with you. When she finally left, I sat down and called the corporate lawyer at my company, the one who handled harassment cases. I explained the situation, and he helped me draft a cease and desist letter. It spelled out in clear terms that if Camilla continued her harassment, I would pursue legal action against her. The letter must have scared her, because the calls and texts stopped immediately. The stalking ended. For the first time in weeks, I could breathe again. As I sat in my quiet apartment that evening, I thought about my mother. In many ways, this was all her doing. From our earliest days, she had planted the seeds of insecurity in both of us, but while I'd managed to grow past them, they had completely consumed Camilla. You look terrible, my mother had said to both of us countless times. For me, they became just words. For Camilla, they became her truth. I scrolled through social media and came across a photo of Daniel with his new girlfriend. She was, as Camilla had said, completely ordinary looking. She had a round face, glasses, and a genuine smile. They looked happy together. I closed my laptop and looked at myself in the mirror. The same strong features that had always been there looked back at me, my grandfather's legacy written across my face. I didn't see anything to be ashamed of. My phone pinged with a message from Mark, a guy I'd been seeing for a few weeks. "Still on for dinner tomorrow?" he'd written. "Absolutely," I replied, smiling. Life was getting back to normal, and normal was looking pretty good.